What's good, y'all? What's good, Real Talk Squad? This is Miles, and you're listening to Real Talk of Miles Johnson, where you know I always keep it real. Man, oh man, we is back and we is better. And my Philadelphia Phillies are in the World Series. Now, I would have got this to y'all sooner, but last week it was homecoming, and I'm a senior. So, I was gonna live it up respectfully, but the work has gotta get done right now. The work has gotta get done. And I know what y'all thinking. Miles, it took the Phillies, your Philadelphia Phillies, to make the World Series for us to get some baseball content out of you. Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. And if you mad, oh well. Because look, I'm too hyped. I look, I got my Phillies hat right there. I'm about to bring it back out. I mean, look, I'm gonna rep my squad. I'm gonna rep my squad. Now, I'm not gonna act like I'm the baseball expert, but here's what I will say. I still have did my research on the Phillies, on the Astros. I done my research on how improbable this run is, and I'm gonna tell y'all that in this episode, right? But as a Philly sports fan in general, when the Phillies are doing good, it's just great in the city. And what's great about the Phillies going to the World Series specifically for Philadelphia like youth, Philadelphia people, talking about MLB baseball community, they want, more youth to learn about baseball, to play baseball, to be more invested in baseball. Well, guess what? Having the Phillies go to the World Series, you're going to have a bunch of youth in Philly that will look up to guys like Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Rice Hawkins. I mean, I can go on and on. And I'll be honest, when I was around 7, 8 years old in Philly, when the Phillies won the World Series in 2008, I knew all the guys on the team. I knew, my man Ryan Howard. I knew Chase Utley, Shane Victorino, Jimmy Rollins. I mean, Pedro Feliz. I mean, those were all the guys. Right? So when your team gets to the World Series, now everybody, all the stars on that team are going to be household names. Now, baseball has to do a better job of marketing their players, but just the fact that the Phillies are in the World Series, it means that you're gonna have way more Philly fans. You're gonna have way more exposure for the Phillies that you wouldn't have had if they missed the playoffs or got bounced out early. I mean, I'm seeing some of my friends, right? They're dripped down in Phillies gear. I'm like, okay, I know you're from Philly, but when the heck did you support the Phillies, right? Rashawn, I'm gonna have his pickup right here. When did this fool be a Phillies fan? That's my best friend. I'm like, come on, bro. And me too. Hey, look, it took the Phillies, going to the World Series just for me to cover them. But let's get right into just how improbable this run was for the Phillies. Now, this is the first time they will be in the World Series since 2009. And you think about, where they started from versus where they are right now. It was a point in the season, June 1st, earlier this year, the Phillies were 22-29 under their former manager, Joe Girardi, right? And this is a Phillies team that, the owner has paid the luxury tax. The payroll is over $230 million. So it's not like the owner is, shortchanging. It's not like he isn't all in. The owner was all in. And the product was not being put forth on the field, right? So something had to change. And I was reading some articles. I was like, you know what? What is a main reason as to why, we might see a coaching change or a managerial change during the season. The number one reason, the former manager is usually more strict on his players, is usually more, strict on, hey, if you mess up, if there's an error, or if the other team is hitting well, I'm gonna sub you out. Instead of just letting the game flow, letting his players play, be more relaxed. And that's what they felt Thompson gave them, that relaxed feel, letting the team play. And it showed. They went 65-46 under Thompson. And that's with a terrible stretch they had coming into the postseason, right? So they became a 6 seed in the playoffs. They sweep the Cardinals. They upset the Braves. Hey, Miles Grayson, that's my pro fight. He a big Braves fan. We had to whip y'all, had to send y'all but packing, right? And then we beat the Padres with Bryce Harper delivering. And talk about a guy that, gave us a bang for his buck. I think that's how you say it, but nonetheless, Bryce Harper was worth every single penny. And you saw that with that home run the other day. Matter of fact, it was yesterday. Now, this video might get posted 2 days after the game, but yesterday, while it's recorded right now, he hit a bomb at the bottom of the eighth to put the Phillies up by 2, or put the Phillies up by 1, but it was a 2-run. So like stuff like that, those are legacy defining, plays. And in a city like Philadelphia, Bryce Harper has the chance to be a legend. He has the chance to be up there with the guys like Ryan Howard, be up there with the guys like Nick Foles, be up there with the guys like Allen Iverson, be up there with the guys like Julius Erving if he delivers the Phillies a World Series championship this year. And we're going to look back at that home run he hit at the bottom of the eighth against the Padres that lifted the Phillies to the World Series, right? So that's a legacy defining play. This is the time where in the playoffs, you want your big stars, you want your heavy hitters, you want the guys that you pay the big bucks to deliver. And Bryce Harper just flat out delivered. I mean, this guy has 5 home runs, 11 RBIs in just the postseason. I mean, he's going bonkers right now. And when we talk about, how do the Phillies measure up with the Astros? One thing the Astros have, the reason why they haven't lost a game this postseason, is because of their pitching. Now, they have the deepest pitching lineup in the whole entire league. You got Justin Verlander, Rambler Valdez, just as your starting pitchers, right? Then you have Christian Javier, Lance McCullers, I think it's how you say his name. But those two guys could be starting pitchers on any other team in the MLB, on most teams, right? Then you have relief. Then you have closing pitchers like Ryan Presley to Rafael Montero to Ryan Stanek to Brian Abro to Hector Neris to Hunter Brown. Bro, you have a lineup of pitchers to where, okay, if Justin Verlander or if Rambler Valdez, if they're out, you're not going to see a considerable drop-off in their play, right? So when you talk about how they match up, with this with this Phillies team that has a guy in Bryce Harper who is the hottest he's probably ever been in his career, Kyle Schwarber, Rice Hawkins. I mean, these guys are on fire. This Phillies offense is on fire. They're the hottest team in the league offensively, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how they measure up with, a lethal pitching lineup that the Astros have. Now, history will tell the mound is better compared to, or the pitching matters more compared to batting. But I would say that if a guy in Bryce Harper and Rice Hawkins and, Kyle Schwarber, if they're really feeling it, I don't think there's any pitcher that can take him out the game. Any pitcher, right? The way that they're hitting the ball, I mean, they have all the confidence in the world, and that's all you need in sports, that confidence, that belief. And I best believe that confidence has trickled down to the rest of the team, to the offense, to the pitching, to the defense. Like, this Phillies team, it has that belief. And guess what? I'm going to say this. I don't know if anybody has said this yet, but this Phillies team reminds me of the Eagles in 2017. Now, everyone wrote them off. They're the underdogs. In every single series or in every single round of the playoffs, the Eagles were underdogs. Every single round, they won. This Phillies team were underdogs from the start of the postseason, the last team to make the postseason. And what do? They win, right? Upset after upset after upset. So this is a city that they will root for their players through thick and thin. Now, best believe we're not going to just shut up if you're playing bad. That's what a lot of athletes don't get about Philly. Like, no, we got your back. But if you play well, you're going to hear it. If you play bad, you're going to hear it, right? So you have to have that tough skin to play in Philly. A guy like Bryce Harper, I mean, he's the face of the Phillies, and he's a guy that really represents Philadelphia, right? He grinded to get here. He was with the Nationals that were terrible, right? Comes to Philly, people were, he had all that chatter about how maybe he's overpaid, shouldn't have paid all this money for him. A couple years ago when he first signed, he had some injuries. He battled back. He didn't complain. He kept pushing, and now he's 4 wins away from leading this Phillies team to the championship. So this is an improbable run. Talk about, when has there ever been another time to where, a team fires their coach mid-season and still makes the playoffs? Never mind the World Series, right? So since 1987, there have been 81 mid-season managerial changes. So 80 of those changes to firings. Of those 80, 19 teams had a better record of 500, in baseball after the change was made. So out of those 80 or 81, 19 of them, 19 were over 500, right? The only 2 teams to make the World Series after a mid-season managerial change were the 1978 Yankees and the 2007 Marlins, right? So this is something that the Phillies are doing that is unprecedented. We're probably not going to see this for a very long time, if ever. And if you would have told me, or if you would have told Philly fans, heck, even an MLB fan, that the Phillies are making to the World Series earlier this season when they were 22 and 29, you would say they were crazy. Like, it was a long shot at the certain point to be like, you know what, will they make the playoffs? Like, reporters were asking Phillies players, do y'all think y'all will make the playoffs? And they were like, yeah, I think so, right? So, great move by the Phillies president to, ultimately fire Girardi and hire Thompson, because that move changed things just like that. Guy in Thompson who all of the Philly players love. It was great to, have him as the head coach, have him as the manager, and his adjustments throughout the playoffs, throughout the regular season, have been on point. And, I feel like the whole entire MLB community, baseball community, is rooting for the Phillies to upset the Astros. And again, it's going to need to have some help Guys like, guys on the Phillies, other than just Harper, Schwarzer, Hoskins, it's going to take them to also give us offense because you can't just rely on your big stars. You got to rely on, the role players to go ahead and lift the team up as well. But let me know what you think. How do you think about the Phillies, right? If you're a Phillies fan, if you're just an MLB fan watching this, how do you feel about the Phillies making it to the World Series? And, how do you think they match up compared to the Astros? Will the Astros sweep them? Will the Astros, make it a long series? Do you think that the Phillies are hot enough to where they can, overmatch that pitching lineup from the Astros? Let me know in the comments down below. This is Real Talk with Miles Johnson, where I always keep it real. I'm out, y'all.